Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Jack Farmer, it's Andy Rossi, it's the Evolution of Movie Show, and Andy, we've got a very special guest this week.
Very special.
You excited to just bring them on?
Let's just do it.
Let's just do it. Like all the former cast members coming back to host SNL, ladies and gentlemen, it's James Shippy. James Shippy, you're back, baby. Forrest Whitaker character.
That's so good.
For those on the audio version, James has logged in under the name Forrest Whitaker character. Which is perfect. Without pulling back the curtain of what we're watching, even though it's in the title of the show, it's perfect because if my life depended on it, I could not tell you what his character name was.
No. We'd all be corpses.
I just watched the movie and took copious notes and could not tell you what his name is.
Me neither, man.
I think it was Forrest.
James, how are you? Good to have you back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I'm back, fellas. So I'm good. Daddy duty's good. Takes up a lot of time. So daddy's got some free time tonight. And that's what this is. But yeah, little man's getting big. He's 6 months now, fellas.
Oh boy.
He'll be 7 months in a week. Can you believe
He's got
that?
a job yet?
I know, right? Start filling out some applications.
Right. Start paying rent.
Help out with these bills.
Yeah,
okay?
Pay rent. 6 months.
Oh, you say just go straight to rent. I was gonna maybe give him a cable bill first, work him up. You know.
No,
you just
gotta carry your own weight. If he was a giraffe, he wouldn't have made it. You gotta start supporting yourself day one.
Giraffe.
Right? These human babies and their dependents for 18 plus years. Stop it. Stop it.
Pathetic. Top of the evolutionary ladder? I don't think so. Well, James Shippy, it's great to have you back, and we have a doozy of a show to talk about. But for everyone who's new to the show, this is the Evolution of Movies show. We call it the Evolution of Movies show because we watch movies and then we talk about them, but we always watch a movie that came out 1 year after the last movie we watched. So we started in 1980, went to 1981, 82, and now we're all the way up to 1988, a time when movie theaters had hits like Die Hard, Rain Man, and of course, Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Wow.
But we're not talking about those. We're talking about Bloodsport, a movie IMDb describes with a blurb that says, Bloodsport follows Frank Dukes, an American martial artist serving in the military who decides to leave the army to compete in a martial arts tournament in Hong Kong where fights to the death can occur. This is the ultimate movies for guys that like movies movie.
Mm-hmm.
Something we started enacting, though, James, since your last here is, Andy, I always like to see if you can guess the Rotten Tomatoes score.
Oh, man. My boy Van Damme. He has usually not been judged very well on the Rotten Tomatoes scale, which such BS, but this is like his first like big breakout role. So I feel like I don't really know what to expect from Van Damme yet. So I believe I'm going to go through my initial choice of comparing it to our first movie, Flash Gordon, which got like a 60 something.
Right.
So,
and just for James and new listeners,
yes.
Ghostbusters, Raiders of the Lost Ark, both in the upper 90s, mid to upper 90s.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Can't Buy Me Love was a 50, I believe.
Yeah.
This had to do better than Can't Buy Me Love.
Can't Buy Me Love is a classic. Those people need to be taken out back.
Rotten Tomatoes, not a fan.
Not a fan.
They gave him a 50. I'm going to go, it had to beat that. So I'm going to go 58.
James, higher or lower than 58?
You know,
this is going to make me sad.
This is not my personal opinion, but I feel like it'd be lower.
Lower. Rotten Tomatoes has it sitting at 42%. 42%. I can't remember if that beats Safe Room or not.
Safe House. Get it right, pal.
Safe House or not.
Get it right.
I stopped keeping track, but we'll just assume Safe House is still the bottom marker for the sake of. But James, had you?
It's no Empire Records.
That's low down.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Have you seen Bloodsport before, and what were your thoughts going into it this time around, James?
What kind of that's like something you ask someone's grandma. Have you seen Bloodsport before? Do I have blood running through my veins, and am I a Homo sapien?
Yes, last I
Yes?
checked.
Yes. Yes, no, I've seen Bloodsport before, and I'll be honest, I have not seen it in a very long time. It's the kind of movie that's like, if you have cable, if you have like TBS or
Yes.
one of those, first 15 channels, if you have like a an antenna, if you're trying to cut the cord, it just happens to be on and you'll see a fight scene. You're like, oh yeah, I remember that. But this was my first time seeing it in years, and I'm gonna tell you something. I was shocked. It actually holds up pretty well. This is Van Damme's Citizen Kane. I'm just gonna come out and say it. It's his magnum opus. This is his best work. I'm not gonna say it was all downhill from there, but I think he kind of touched the sky. He touched the gods.
If it's his best
martial arts
work, then
gods.
mathematically it's downhill from there. like once you're at the mountaintop, there's no way it has to be downhill from there, James.
I think
I
James
know, right?
said this last season about Lionheart that it was his best work, though. So I don't know.
I don't know if James knows the difference between the two movies because they're shockingly similar.
Yes, they are. And maybe that's what it is. It makes you think it's the best work. But, yeah, I still stand by it. This and Lionheart is Van Damme's best work.
I think Bloodsport is a quintessential 80s action movie. And you're right. As soon as I think of Bloodsport, I think on TBS, the Superstation at 5:05 Eastern or whatever. And you're right. It's another one of those classics you never sit down and watch. It's just on. It comes to you. You don't come to it. But Andy, before we get into it, any thoughts on Bloodsport you want to share?
I mean, for me, this was my guy back in the day. So I watched all the Van Damme movies in the early 90s, late 80s. And this was probably my favorite at the time. And I think still is.
Yeah, it's a great movie. We're going to talk all about it. But first, as always, I want to say thank you to everyone for watching the show, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. Thank you. Like, comment, share, subscribe, 5-star reviews. All that good stuff is always appreciated. Let's get into this movie. In Hong Kong, the stage is being set for a tournament while a montage of warriors from around the world are shown training and doing battle. It's for the Kumite, a tournament where you could die, but as Jackson tells us, it's only if you mess up. James, this is the setup to the movie. Tell us about the world we live in and the characters that inhabit it.
Well, look, this is the thing. I remember, you say, I sat down and watched this last night, and I looked at the timestamp because time is precious, especially when you're a new daddy. Mm-hmm. I said an hour and 32 minutes. Okay, I'm in. An hour and 32 minutes. And the reason why this movie is a quintessential 80s action film, they don't waste any time whatsoever. Okay, and that's what's so good about it. And I couldn't remember, but basically they're going through all of the main fighters training for this thing in the beginning of it, including Frank Dukes. And that's when his part kicks off. But you're just basically seeing every kind of fighter from around the world and how they're preparing for the big match, the Kumite. And
they're all breaking things. Like
they're all breaking.
Chong Li's kicking ice, and other guys like breaking watermelon or coconuts or something.
Yeah, some coconuts or something. Yeah.
This definitely felt like it was cool because it showed all these different warriors from around the world that were clearly from different countries and cultures and things. Did feel like some of them were based off of a book someone read about different cultures more so than actually knowing about the cultures. But
oh yeah, we'll get into that.
It gave me like a Street Fighter 2 vibe too.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead though.
No, I mean that's exactly it. Like you pick Blanca and you get like the specific background. You have this fighter that has their specific background. So
I was 100% thinking this totally feels like Street Fighter 2. Yeah. I don't know. I never played Street Fighter 1. Did that game even exist? Street Fighter 1?
They just went straight to part 2, right?
Yeah, it was just one day there was Street Fighter 2, and we were all like, "Oh, this is great!" And then that was the only game that you played.
Yeah.
And ironically, Van Damme was in a movie, I think, Street Fighter 2, which is definitely not his best work.
No.
Not his
Colonel
fault.
Kyle.
No.
Yeah.
Well, we continue on in this movie, and Captain Frank Dukes is off to Hong Kong, but the military isn't happy about him sneaking off. He visits his old trainer while flashing back to his time as a youth when he looked completely different. He looks like he's stealing a sword, so Tanaka decides to add young Frank to his army of child fighters. Frank uses his knowledge to help a kid who's getting bullied, and the kid mentions the Kumite. Tanaka's son dies, so the training ends, and Tanaka says his family was nuked, ending the line of training. Frank eventually convinces Tanaka to train him, even though he isn't Japanese, and we get our second montage, this time of Frank and Tanaka training. Eventually, Frank earns the sword before the flashback ends. Andy, I want to go. I'm just going to pick a random spot in this thing. I want you to talk about it. First, we're going to go through a few of them, but first, catching the two sticks while doing the splits and staring intensely at Tanaka.
Amazing. This is my favorite part of the whole movie. James, you and I have talked about this flashback before.
Yes.
And for one, he's wearing a Giants football shirt and a Giants baseball hat, which I think is amazing. I feel like they told this kid on the day that, oh, by the way, you have to use a Van Damme accent because his voice is so strange. And he takes forever to put the sword away. Like, it's like if you're breaking into his house, just put the sword back. He's like staring at it, and then the kid just comes in and kicks him. And it just made me laugh this whole time. How long, if Mrs. Tanaka was watching Van Damme in the living room, like this is a long time he's like in flashback land. So I just like pictured, is he just like sitting there like just like looking at nothing forever? It's the longest flashback ever, but it's so good. It's just such a good scene. I couldn't stop laughing.
And James, I want to talk to you about this kid because when he comes in and he says he's Jean-Claude Van Damme, to Andy's point, it feels a bit like the casting director forgot to cast this role. And so just grabbed a kid outside and said, hey, you want to be a movie star?
I wasn't going to steal it.
Doesn't look anything like him. Like, doesn't look remotely close to what Van Damme's going to look like. Like, I don't mean to bury this poor kid. I'm sure he was doing his best, but I was like, wait, that's it. Like, I had to stop for a second. Wait, that's him? That's
James, can you please do the line delivery of the cops line?
Well, no, he's just like, you're not going to call the cops? And he says, what kind of deal? And I'm just sorry, I'm looking at his lips. His lips aren't moving at the same. It's like an English movie has dubbed a kid speaking English. Like his lips aren't moving at the same time the words are coming out. And yeah, it always tripped me out that he was, I almost thought he was kind of off a bit. I wasn't sure. Like the other kids just scram, and he's just like looking at the sword like it's some sort of, I don't know what he's looking at. Like it's, and then he puts it back, and then like this kid half his size comes, kicks his arse, and then the dad's like, "Okay, son, go back and finish,
go to your
lunch.
Studies."
Yeah, go do your studies. Let me go talk to this kid that just breaking and entering in our house.
I love the fact that someone just broke into his house and Tanaka sends his child to handle it. Yeah, we're supposed to think of Tanaka as this great war. What's your kid? What if that guy had a gun? You don't know who this is. You just send your child in there. Andy, I want you to talk me through Blind Tea Time.
So funny. This is so funny. I was actually thinking that, like, I knew it was coming, so I was wondering like what they did on the day of the shoot. Did somebody yell out like, and hit him? Because it's pretty close. He like catches it like fairly last minute. I'd love to see the bloopers on that one.
I don't like you implying that he doesn't actually see when he can't see.
You're right. He can't.
So, James, the last thing I got to talk about with this whole scene is I want you to talk to me about what I called the S&M stuff, where he was like tied by his ankles and wrists and staring deeply at Tanaka while he was getting spread apart.
It's funny. I mean, yeah, while he's getting stretched, and Andy mentioned that, and you don't notice that kind of stuff as a kid when you watch these things. But let me just tell you, it's very erotic,
very uncomfortable.
very uncomfortable. This is your mentor, but we don't know if there's anything else going on because of the way he's looking at him. It's very, intimately after he's broken the sticks of having his body stretched wide open.
By the way, I don't know how that's training. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to hit you with these sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, to your point about the scene too is I try to imagine, because this is a movie for guys like movies. I could imagine like if James, now you have a son, I can imagine like he grows up a little bit and you're like, let's watch this cool movie, this masculine movie together. As you're sitting there watching this scene, be like, huh.
Yeah.
This doesn't I don't remember this part of the movie.
Yeah, I don't remember this part.
It almost seems like a different movie when I felt like it felt like an after school special when they cut to the scene where the son is getting bullied and then Van Damme comes in and kicks those kids' butts and then
he hugs them, right?
And then I just noticed a kid had a shirt that said Bartles and James. That just made me laugh. And the one thing too that I thought was funny throughout all this is Van Damme starts off, he's wearing a white belt, which is like, that's the initial belt you wear in any martial arts. And then now he's an adult and I noticed he still has a white belt. I'm like, man, his trainer's not even giving him a higher belt rank.
This scene felt very much like they finished filming the movie, saw it was only an hour and 10 minutes, and said, oh, shoot, we got to do something to add some fluff.
We need another montage.
And Jean-Claude ain't coming back. So we got to get someone else to do it. He's done. We've blown that budget. But
I love his hair, though, when they show the younger Van Damme.
Oh, yeah. Okay, it wasn't me. It's like a perm, like a poof. And I don't know if he had like his cheekbones look really nice. I mean, he's a very nice looking dude in this movie, but yeah, it looked like he had a little, I don't know, blush or something on.
Yeah, very interesting scene. But
it was funny though. I just want to say when he rescues the Tanaka's son, the kid's like, when I grow up, I'm gonna go to Kumite. I was like, how do you know about this? You're like 8. You're like 10. What do you know about fight to the death, martial arts matches?
Right, because they didn't have the internet back then. Like you wouldn't. Yeah. Was it in illegal underground fighting monthly magazine?
And what about his the remark he says to young Frank? He says, "Why don't you just quit, round eyes?"
Oh, he did say that. Right? Like, nice, good,
okay,
round eyes, good.
Seems a little inappropriate, but okay. Tanaka, shouldn't you be telling him not to say that? I don't know. Maybe just tell him to go finish his studies. Tanaka's like,
yeah. And Tanaka wanted to train Frank because he didn't blink. That was the whole thing.
Oh, you're right. After you cut
fighting spirit, the brim off. The whole thing was just beautiful.
So Tanaka is sleeping and Frank barges in on him and Tanaka says he's ready. So Frankie goes to Hong Kong. A blonde woman is trying to get information about the Kumite and failing while Frank and the guy I always just refer to as the American play video games while chatting about the Kumite. Why doesn't the lady talk to these two chatty Cathys? Because they're all about it. They head over to the hotel and their handler picks them up and they go to visit the arena and are advised to, quote, hold their nuts. They walk down a really long hallway. They check in a very professional way until Frank is asked to prove he is part of the Tanaka clan by breaking a brick in one of the most iconic parts of the movie. It's good, but Frank is reminded that the brick doesn't hit back. Back home, Forrest Whitaker is on the trail of Frank Dukes and heads over to Hong Kong looking to get help from the local police. James, this is where we're starting to really get the meat and potatoes of what this is and really how big it is with it also being underground and a reporter wanting to know more about it.
Yeah.
I don't know her name, by the way.
Me neither. I don't know her name either. And
I thought it was Cynthia, but I think that's Lionheart.
Oh, yeah.
I learned Jackson's name this time, but because I was watching, but historically I just called him the American whenever I watched this.
Yeah. Well, I remember him. He was in a movie called Revenge of the Nerds. And he was like
he's Ogre.
Ogre. Yeah, there you go. Ogre. Yeah. So I just remember it as that. Yeah, I mean, the thing I liked, I didn't notice it before, is the guy, and I looked it up, is Victor Lin, their kind of guide, who's like cool as hell. Like, isn't he like the coolest guy? He's like, come on, man. Like he's just kind of talked to them. And And when they're walking across Hong Kong, he's giving exposition about like what they're doing there, what Kumite is, and it's kind of cool. It seems natural. It doesn't seem like it's like they're getting all of that out. I don't know how much people are paying attention at that point, but it's kind of he's giving the background of this martial arts program and how I think the Yakuza like help kind of control it, and that's why it's underground and stuff. And Cynthia, we'll call her Cynthia. What paper is she working for that they're like, oh yeah, we'll just send you to Hong Kong and
By
like
yourself.
I don't know, it just seems a little sus. Like I don't know.
It also seems very lazy that she just goes to the bar and goes, "Hey, tell me about the Kumite."
yeah, right.
Like, I don't know, maybe be a little more subtle than that. Like, she might as well hold out her recorder while she's talking.
Exactly, right. But I love. Oh, go ahead.
No, take it.
Yeah,
take it.
No, but I love how once they finally get into like the area where the arena is and stuff, and that whole that brick scene is iconic, and throughout this whole movie, you have a lot of set pieces. That's what they call it, like stuff you see in film. That are very iconic with this movie, and it really holds up. So, for instance, even when they're playing the video game together, the fight game, that's kind of like it's kind of cool and kind of a precursor to like what's going to be like in real life when Dukes is like dominating the competition.
Mm-hmm.
I love that guide. I'm so glad he brought him up. Where he's like, Jackson, you look like a Jackson, and you must be Frank Dux.
Yeah, Frank Dux.
I didn't realize he's in like the whole movie. Like that guide's kind of popping in and out throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
He is a great buffer though, because without him, because it's not a huge role, but without him, you take him out and it takes all the believability that these guys are in a strange city that they don't know, dealing with an underground, like all that stuff goes away. But if you're like, this is their handler, the guy showing them around and connecting them and getting them where they need to go, it adds that layer of believability that, yeah, this isn't just something it's not just happening at the large arena down the street. It creates a little bit of that air of secrecy that they're going for, though it seems like the worst kept secret in all of Hong Kong is everyone's talking about it. But Andy, we talked about these set pieces, the breaking of the bricks and stuff like that. This feels like classic Jean-Claude Van Damme, that kind of stuff.
It's amazing. And that's when we first see Chong Li, and that guy's pectorals are just the best. But he says like, what is it? Very good, but brick don't hit back. You're just like, oh boy, this guy. And he's right. Like, you could hit something as hard as you want, but it's not going to hit back.
He's so big. I feel like every time I watch this movie, I'm like, he's bigger than I remember he was. Usually as you grow up, it's the opposite. People are smaller than you remember them. But him, like, geez.
Yeah,
he was.
You know what it is? He's prison ripped. Okay, I don't know what kind of red meat they're eating in Hong Kong, but it rivals the red meat they eat in the programs. That's a callback. The program set. This dude is prison ripped.
Dude, he's big.
And he's. I remember I remember looking it up and like being like, he's really old. He's like an older guy. I looked it up. He's
real life.
He's 42. When this movie was shot, which is, I guess, old because Van Damme's probably late 20s or something in this. So,
Andy, I'm going to warn you: do not go down that rabbit hole of Googling how old people are. I did that with Al Bundy. I did it with Homer Simpson. Trust me, you do not want to go down that rabbit hole.
You know, right?
It only ends in heartbreak.
As of this recording, he's older than me.
Well. Back at the hotel, the girl from earlier is now getting guys to talk too much as they're about to get handsy with her. But Frank uses the greatest trick Tanaka ever taught him: sleight of hand and close-up magic. The reporter and Frank hit it off, so Frank goes to do the splits, and we get a good look at his heaving, oil-drenched chest before heading off to the tournament. They explain the tournament is about proving yourself to be the best or something like that. They also have a sponsor. So I don't know. Is this legal? What's the deal with this thing? Different fights take place as Ray clubs his way to victory and calls out Chong Li. Ray also talks about how Chong Li killed a guy once. And we see the reigning champ get an easy win through round one, while Frank gets a record-setting win with a sneak attack as we get a Kumite montage.
Yes.
Andy, I want you to tell me about this magic trick where he snatches the quarter and replaces it as. You just take it away, and then I'll give my thoughts.
You lose, American asshole. I remember when I first watched that, I didn't know what he did. I was like, coin's still there. But like, yeah, he not only did he take the coin, he replaced it with a different coin. But it made me think, so he learned this trick by grabbing goldfish in a koi pond. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know where you're getting.
How I'm not understanding.
I don't know what's so weird about this for you.
Did you say koi pond? Like,
pond.
Was that a koi pond?
A koi fish pond. There
it's a pond filled with koi ponds.
Yeah, you've never seen one?
But I remember thinking, like, as a kid, I was like, that's so cool. He was able to do that. But now as an adult, I'm like, that's some like cheap Las Vegas stuff that someone walks up and does to you. This guy would still be like, nah, I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to talk about, before I forget, I can't think of another movie that plays a song about what the event. Yeah, there's never like boxing match. This is
Kumite.
Literally a song about Kumite.
I was about to say, James, I want to hear you sing the song.
Kumite. I'll fight. Isn't that the same one? I'll fight to survive. And we must say this, because we're all music guys. And I remember some of the songs that were coming on, but I mean, this soundtrack's amazing. Maybe you'll talk about the one scene. You know what I'm talking about? The scene where the music is when they're running through town. Maybe I'll comment on it, but the music's great in this film. I just must say.
Yes. Yeah. We can joke about the Kumite song all we want. It's going in the workout playlist.
Yeah.
I'll be working out Kumite.
It always was for me growing up. I mean, that was always on there.
Who didn't want to win the Kumite here? But this is also where we sort of see that. And James, I guess I'll ask you about this. They have a sponsor for this thing. They're like, and we're also sponsored by the International Fight League or something. I can't remember.
The IFCC or something like that. IFOC,
which they threw in for some reason. But does that mean it's not illegal? I don't get what.
Well, supposedly, and I'm jumping ahead, but this is based on a true story, and Kumite is supposed to be this known martial arts thing, right? Like, I feel like it was UFC before UFC, right? Because the beauty of UFC is like you don't even need to know the fighters. It could be a dude that does drywall for a living and like a plumber just beating each other's brains out. And you're going to stop and watch. But I mean, the Kumite is supposed to be a real thing. So I guess they're just trying to give some credibility there. I mean, I've never heard of it after it.
What I loved about the Kumite too, about the fighting styles, they all had like pretty different like fighting styles, which is kind of fun.
Yes.
But Jackson, I still don't know he's just like a street brawler. He doesn't have like he just does
barstool, baby. That's what it is.
He's like a
barstool fight.
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, he's just big and strong. I mean, he's a big, strong dude.
Which, by the way, I was thinking, you made Jean-Claude Van Damme prove that he knows like how to fight with breaking a brick, where this dude just walks in and is like, I'm gonna club people to death with my hands.
Drinking beer, Harley Davidson shirts.
No one questions him. Like, yeah, okay, you're in. But John, you with all the credentials, you better prove yourself. But it was cool, as you said, the different styles and things. And to the beginning of this movie, something I loved is they showed you all these different fighters, and then you saw them go at it, and you saw them one by one get knocked off. I thought that was a cool touch because you kind of start rooting for certain people in there too.
Yeah, I want to just back. I want to say backdoor. I'm almost in. Yeah, I didn't want to say backdoor just because we were talking about. But yeah, I want to backdoor you. Your comments. Your comments.
Okay.
Okay.
Stop it. Yeah.
Carry on.
Backdoor your comment.
And you made fun of my koi pond.
Right.
Wow. I don't know if I'm flattered or.
All right, that's the show, folks. Rewatching this now, I thought it was, like I said, great storytelling. Sometimes with movies like this, they'll try and get straight to the action action and you don't know anything about anybody and you don't have any emotional investment, right? So even though it doesn't start off with a lot of fighting until maybe about 20 or 30 minutes into the film, you do feel like you know these characters. So it was masterfully edited. I don't know how you would say it, but like it's very impressive how it really holds up. And you feel like you know these guys and you're invested. Frank Dukes with Jackson, which they're like developing this bromance and they had just met like 5-10 minutes ago. It doesn't feel fake for some reason, which is kind of shocking, to be honest with you. Because like I said, they just met each other, but they just really hit it off really well initially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that because I have some comments on that. But yeah, to your point, we're laughing, and I should say we're 30 minutes in, but if we're laughing and we're kind of teasing the show because it's just so over the top 80s action movie. But you're right. There's a reason it's held up and stayed in the cultural zeitgeist of movies, is because there are so many cool things about it that make you keep coming back. And I think that's your point, one of those things.
Yeah.
But the local police rat out Frank and they go to bring him back to the military. And Jackson is the best friend ever and tackles these agents to buy Frank time as Frank runs away to, is this the fourth montage as Frank flees the FBI, the military? I don't know who these guys are really now that I think about it. Anyways, now Frank is on a date and the reporter blackmails Frank saying she'll rat him out if he doesn't help her get into the tournament. But still, we find ourselves back at her place where, well, as we like to say on this show, Andy, walk us through the sex scene.
Wow. So Jean-Claude, man, this guy was in tip-top shape. And they just start the scene like, I feel like they were just telling him like, all right, so have your butt cheeks out and action. Let's show the butt. And then, he's got a little tiny, like little bikini briefs on. I'm like, I've never seen anybody wear that.
If I had a derriere like Van Damme, I'd be wearing little briefies too.
That must be in his contract. I feel like every movie he did in the 80s or early 90s, he would show his buttocks. Like he would always have to show his buttocks, sometimes intentionally, unintentionally, but he always would have to show it. And it's a thing, I guess.
And him running away, I think somebody did this. I might be stealing this comment, but it's such a Mentos commercial. He's like running from those two guys. They fall on the boat and stuff, and then he like literally does like a thumbs up or something as he gets in a little cart.
Yeah,
I love that.
Mentos freshness spread.
It's so perfect.
I'll be honest, and this movie is probably one of the most memorable parts. I mean, this part is probably one of the memorable parts of the movie for me. The buttocks part for sure.
Yeah.
But the second most memorable part is the running through the city, being chased by the Forrest Whitaker character and the avuncular older man character. I don't even know who that guy is, but he's he's very wise and nice, and he's like, just let him go, just let it go. He's that old guy. But I love this part of the movie because it's quintessential 80s. It's a montage, and that song, Steal the Night. I mean, there's a little white man inside of me that just wants to do the Carlton. Whenever I see that part and I hear that song, it makes me feel all good inside, and I just want to start dancing.
Yeah,
preferably off key. I want to dance off key. I can't do that actually, but if I tried,
I could teach you to dance off key. The trick is you dance to the words. Okay. But Andy, I want to talk to you about this because the agents, this is a situation where Jean-Claude Van Damme has left a military outfit to go to fight in another country, and that military outfit sends two guys to track him down and bring him back. This is literally the story of Lionheart.
Enough about Lionheart. Let's talk about Bloodsport.
We didn't really talk about that beginning part, how he outsmarts the one guy by putting 3 showers on and then somehow gets away. I was very confused, but I'm like, wait, isn't this Lionheart?
Captain Dukes, are you okay in there?
Could you imagine anyone else being, by the way, just to go back to the very beginning, like, hey, so-and-so needs to see you. Yes, but I need to take a shower first. Like, no, I think we need to go. What are you talking about? No. What?
And the guy's like, yeah, go ahead. Oh,
Yeah.
you're putting on 3 showers? Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Nothing
Interesting.
weird about that.
What does he run back and forth? Like,
James, I want to talk to you because
Yeah.
this is gonna be a reoccurring theme here for me. Just heads up. How are we supposed to like this girl? She literally blackmails him to get what she goes on a date with him. She acts like she's interested, but it's all just a ruse to blackmail him and say, I'm going to tell on you if you don't get me where I'm not supposed to go. She's a villain, is she not?
Well, they also do something cleverly here with him, and it kind of reminds me of like a lot of Tom Cruise movies. They make what works for Van Damme in this movie. He has kind of an innocence to him, even though he's like a badass. But like even when he, they don't show him have sex with her. Like there's something that's mentioned. I don't even remember how it leads to it. But then he wakes up. He's kind of innocent in his little bikini briefs, and he comes over and kisses her. It's almost like he's the female in the situation. But I know what you mean, because it's like she rats him out pretty much, but she has her reasons to a certain extent. It's almost like to help put her in the story even longer, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone's getting so deeply entwined with each other in this. What is it, like a week in Hong Kong, right?
I'm guessing like 3 days.
Yeah, it's maybe 3 days. I mean, it's kind of, what's that show, The Flavor of Love? Have you ever seen that
Yes.
beauty?
Yes.
And you see these shows, and these women are, I guess,
Reality
you're
show
seeing
perfection, by the way.
Oh, I mean, look, that's one of the best reality shows ever. But these girls, after being with Flavor for like 2 weeks, right? Like, I love you, Flavor.
I love you, Flavor.
Speaking about mountaintops and all downhill from there, after Flavor of Love, why are we even doing reality shows anymore? Nothing's gonna live up to that.
No way, man.
So Jackson headbutts a brick, and Frank sees his clinger of a girlfriend at the tournament. Fights continue as the competition gets stiffer in montage number 5, ending with Chong Li kicking the bone out of the leg of a competitor, which is the part of the movie that always grosses me out. But Dukes beats a big guy with a palm strike to the sternum and then an uppercut to the scrotum while the crowd starts to get behind him. Jackson gets in there with Chong Li, and even though Frank literally told Jackson how to win the fight, he taunts too early, and Chong Li goes to work, curb stopping the American and taking his bandana. Jackson is in the hospital, but he'll be okay. You know who won't be? The girlfriend who was doing everything possible to watch the Kumite, who suddenly is disgusted by the Kumite, and after knowing Frank for 3 days, wants to change everything about him. When he wants to follow his dreams, she goes to the local authorities to stop him, and we get our 6th montage.
Is that the one on the bus?
James, yeah, it is. James, one of my favorite lines in this movie is when he's talking to her about being a reporter, and she says, "My father was a reporter."
Yes,
Anyways,
yes.
he's kind of a stalker. I have a bone to pick with this reporter, and it's not the bone that popped out of a guy's leg.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, his leg split open. Oh, so disgusting. I will say this, and that scene, that is like the one, like if you were gonna do a scene in acting class from Bloodsport, you would do that scene. Basically, you would do that scene, because that was Van Damme's chance to kind of, show his acting chops. He's like, do you want to be a reporter? Like, don't you want to be the best journalist or reporter you want to be, right? And she's like, yes. And the whole thing about her father. And he's like, I'm trying to be the best fighter I can be. And I don't know about you guys, but I felt those lines from Van Damme. I felt it. And once again, it's like, I was like, that's why this is like the best movie of Van Damme, like as far as like everything involved, because it's not only that he's not fighting for himself, he's fighting for his Shidoshi. And they set that up in those first 20 minutes, half of them a montage. They set that up, how important that is. So this isn't just for him. This is for his Shidoshi and for the son. And he's fighting for honor, which is so different. And that's what's going to give him the strength to avenge his friend that he's known for 3 days. His best friend,
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a good point, Andy. I want to go to you. One, I want you to compare these two characters. The woman who knows Frank for 3 days and is shocked to find out that an illegal underground fighting tournament has violence involved, and wants him to just give up everything because she knows him now, as opposed to Jackson, who is kind of the best version of masculinity without being toxic. He's like this big, strong, burly man's man, but also like he constantly cheers on Frank.
Yes. He's amazing.
Constantly behind him, always supportive. Even when he's out, he's like, "You got this, man." You know, he's like the best friend you could have.
He's perfect. Yeah. What a great role for Jackson here. He's at the hospital. He's drinking beers in the hospital, which I thought was amazing. But yeah, freaking Jackson, man. He's up ahead on Chong Li. He celebrates so early. I mean, that'd be like if you were like hitting like a fly ball. It's going like to the shortstop, and you're like, it's gone, and you're just like celebrating, and then his shortstop catches it. You're like, I wasn't even close. Wasn't even close to putting him out. And he's sitting there celebrating. It was this very disheartening. But I got to say, probably my second favorite part of this movie. My favorite is the beginning where young Frank breaks in. This part is probably my second favorite. What a great, like, the fight choreography. You're really seeing a lot of like great fighters here, and the tension is really getting crazy because you got Chong Li beats Jackson, and then Frank like kicks that guy like out of the ring. That one guy that was like pointing at him all crazy. He's like,
I got a beef with that part. Okay, I remember being a kid seeing that, and it's it's a brother, right? And he looks like he's about to kick some arse.
That guy looks scary.
He looks scary, and he's doing the whole the thing with the throat and the and then as soon as the I guess the bell rings, I mean, this dude doesn't even get he doesn't even swing. Okay.
Yeah. It looks like he bounces
him off
out.
the screen. He
like
kicks him off the television screen. I mean, it's like, come on, man, come on, let this brother get something in.
Yeah, he like springboarded off, like he just like bounced like a trampoline off the thing. But I mean, the worst was the poor sumo guy who just got punched in the nuggets. And I was wondering about that. Van Damme was down there for a little while. Did he do like a grab, or was it just a punch?
He rearranged the furniture, I think.
I think there was something going on there.
That man won't be making love to a woman for a while. Let's just put it that way.
What's the phrase? You put the beans above the Frank or something? Like, what's
How'd you get the beans in front of the Frank?
But to the point though, this is where it actually does start to get tense, because now you're starting to remember who some of these fighters are as they're fighting each other. And then when you're seeing Frank fight the sumo guy, you're like, oh man, he's beat like 3 people already. And you like remember him, and it means more when he's beating him. And then when you see Jackson get out, you're like, oh wow, this is a big scene. And it's actually really, really well done. It's a good set of fights. Oh yeah, Andy, real quick before we get to the last part here, splits overlooking the city. Was he? I feel like they shot that in probably an actual historical like place that was very disrespectful to be doing that in.
Is it disrespectful? I mean, you get some Van Damme splits there. I mean, he really goes for it. I felt like somebody asked him, hey, do you know how to do the splits? He's like, yes, I will do it many times. Like, it does it like 12 times in this movie. And I kept thinking, no time in my lifetime have I been able to get it close to a splits.
Do you think? I feel like that the view there was beautiful. Tourists had to be like, guy, can I get a picture with my family?
No, Frank Dukes is up there meditating.
Whatever he's doing.
In the splits. Is that a comfortable position to meditate? Because even like if I'm sitting crisscross applesauce, right, as we call it, like I'm just like, kind of moving every couple minutes. I mean, this brother's in the splits up there overlooking Hong Kong.
Yeah, we never talked about his other splits when Jackson comes in and Jackson's trying to talk to him, and he's in Frankland. Yeah. And he just says, ready.
Yeah. Crazy.
Well, I mean, it was like I said, every movie he's in, he does the splits, and that becomes like an iconic go-to for him, almost as much as with Schwarzenegger's I'll Be Back, we always expect him to do the splits in a movie.
If I could do the splits, I'd probably do the splits all the time.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Same here.
But the cops try to stop Frank. He gets away and back to the tournament. But the girlfriend stalks her way back in with the CIA. Who are these guys? I don't know who these guys are. But Dukes gets the early win. So now the girl is cheering for him. Talk about a front-running flip-flopper. Chong Li kills a guy and then celebrates like a 5-year-old by fist-pumping and pointing and saying, "You're next."
Next.
And he's right. It's time for the big fight, and it's a sight to behold. They go back and forth with kick, knees, and throws. The crowd is fickle, cheering for the man in control, and eventually Chong Li knows that Frank's got him licked. So Chong Li throws powder into Frank's eyes. He's blind. If only he had trained for a situation like this. Oh, wait. He did. He screams into the night before remembering tea with his father figure. And like Daredevil, he's able to fight without sight, making Chong Li quit. Now the stalker girlfriend is all cool about fighting now that Frank's a winner. Sheesh. Jackson says he'll be there no matter what, again proving to be the greatest friend around as the cops and Frank head back home, likely to put Frank in prison for desertion. we get a note at the end saying this was all based on a true story with some impressive stats, which, if you Google, say they may not be as based in reality as old Frankie Dukes would like you to believe. James, so much stuff. This was a great ending to this movie. Just the way it picks up and it gets to the fight. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so the semifinal fight, that's the great, because I think he ends up Duke's fights before Chong Li. He fights the dude that we saw in the beginning, and the one that he kind of fights very. Yeah, Paco, and very, it makes me think of like Street Fighter, but like always like a dirty fighter, but like very strong, and and I think at a certain point, it's a great thing when Van Damme, they keep kicking each other like in the shank, and he's like, "Come on, come on, great stuff." And with Chong Li, and I don't know if we said this earlier, when you look back on this film, Chong Li's got to be one of the best villains, probably in any Van Damme film. The other iconic one is a dude from Kickboxer who is very kind of imposed. Yeah, Tong Po, who's imposing but almost doesn't say anything and has no personality whatsoever. Chong Li seems to like revel in beating people and like toying with them. He's kind of has a sense of humor. He's kind of charismatic and cocky, and it's kind of fun to see him. He's just a great bad guy and very scary and brushing people off. And I go back to the music, the theme music for all of these people. Frank Dukes is the one, his music is very kind of inspirational, but like, Chong Li's is very, it's very bad guy music. When he comes in, it's scary. And the final fight is amazing. The only thing I'm not buying is, it's so obvious he's reaching in his private parts for something. And no one notices or like stops it. Like no one's like, okay, hold on, guys, go back to your corners for a second.
I'll tell you why they don't, James. So he kills a guy. They don't kick him out. They just turn their backs at him, and he's like, all right, that's it. Yeah, he doesn't get docked anything.
I'm not telling that guy he cheated if he just killed someone with his bare hands.
Yeah,
again.
So him taking out powder or whatever it was. Yeah, they're just like, yeah, we saw it. But he did kill a guy.
I think James is right though. He's probably a top 10 80s villain. I would.
He's great.
I think off the top of my head.
Absolutely. His close-ups with his like crazy face is so scary. It's like very menacing.
Yeah.
If you could get someone who's built enough or has the right look, I could definitely see an HBO prequel series to Chong Li and how he became Chong Li. I could see one of those kind of movies coming up, or TV shows or something. I'd be interested in that.
When he says "you are next," you're just like, I poop my pants. I'd be like, oh, he doesn't have any remorse for what he just killed a guy.
Right.
He's
like doing the double-handed fist pump. Like he's like a little kid that just got ice cream.
Then he waves them off.
But Frank Blind is so great. There's like gifs of it everywhere. It's so amazing. But I love how long when he's looking at his eyes and he's got like the crazy eyes, how long he's like, again, we're in another flashback scene. And like I was the same thing. I was wondering, like with Mrs. Tanaka, I'm like, so is Chong Li just kind of looking over at him like, oh, what's this guy doing? He's really going through a lot right now.
Exactly.
I'll give him
He
some
could have
time.
ended him. He
Yeah.
could have ended him there. And I'll just the back up what you were saying. When this is like the beginning of these triple these edited triple kicks in the air that became iconic. And I don't know about you, I would like, do that in shadow box, in in my room as a kid and like do all that. Don't do that at home, kids, but like it's just very iconic stuff. And I feel like probably more than most movies, it's very kind of aspirational and inspirational seeing him fight throughout this movie. Because it's, his martial arts is very majestic. He's very like fluid when he fights. I say, you're getting older. I'm looking like at his outfits, like, oh, that's a really nice gi he has on. Very colorful.
They do a good job of making him such the good guy too, because he's like, I don't know why I really like the part where he's like boxing out the ref for a second. He like throws the ref at him and he grabs his gi and he's like, okay, he's fine.
Yeah, he's
and
like protecting the ref, but using
like...
him to fight. I'm like, yo, this is so awesome.
Yeah. I gotta give him some acting chops credit here too, because when you watch him in that slow motion scene, it does take a long time, but you almost feel your eyes start to feel dry too, as he's like looking at his hands. He's like, his eyes are so wide.
Oh yeah.
Like, I believe that he had something in his eyes in that moment, the way he was acting that out.
It was good.
But like I said, I love how when he eventually goes back, everyone like shrugs it off, like, oh well, I guess you're just gonna come back to the military. No hard feelings, chum.
Well, they all like fell in love with him. I mean, he doesn't kill Chong Li. He makes him say Mate, which earlier in the film we find out those are the rules. One of them is you can say Mate. It just made me laugh that's the first time we saw anybody say it. Like all the other fighters just like
no one
died or whatever.
Right. Yeah, that's a funny point. You're right. Yeah, no one ever says it.
And then
let's not forget line, oh, go ahead. I
was just gonna say Frank's classic line is, next time try to keep your clothes on.
Oh yeah, try to keep your clothes. And that's what I was gonna say. I don't know. Maybe because as a dad, you get very emotional with these kind of moments now when there's bromances and things. But I thought it was very touching what I want to call him Animal for some reason. That should have been his name instead of Jackson.
His name should have been Animal.
Right. But they had clapped hands and he says, like, anytime, anywhere, you need me, I'm there for you. And I don't like when you hear stuff like that, you're like, man, that's what friendship's all about. Like it's, that's the really cool thing about that. And because as you said, Andy, you pointed out throughout the whole movie, and I know it's like, yo, this dude's like really cheering him on each time. And there's a chance they would probably end up fighting each other, or you're fighting, you're both trying to get the same thing. And you don't always see that, I just thought that was really cool.
It was a great relationship. Yeah. Like Jack, we did 48 Hours a few weeks ago, and it was like it's supposed to be a buddy cop movie, but they never really had such a bromance. These two are the bromance buddy cop movie.
Because even I think Jackson's actually a better friend than even Frank Dukes is. Because Frank Dukes is never like, hey, Jackson, I hope you do well. Good luck out there. But Jackson, I mean, he's like, yeah, we're going to get in there. You'll watch out for me. But until then, good luck, buddy. Go. Like he cheers so much more than even Frank does. He is all in on Frank Dukes the whole movie.
The CIA guys.
Yeah.
Or FBI or military, whatever they are.
With their big electric things. They're like big cell phones, right?
Forgot about that.
This is 50,000 volts. I was like, is that true or is that too much? Like I wanted to Google that. Like, is that regulation?
You sure you can carry that thing? Because that's massive. That's heavy. But we would be doing a disservice if we did not touch on the fact, though, that I don't know if any of our viewers or listeners or James, Andy, it looks like you have Googled old Frank Dukes and how accurate some of these claims are.
My favorite credit at the end, I wrote it down actually. It says the fastest kick with a KO, 76 miles per hour. And to me, I was just like, you could time that?
Yeah. What?
I don't know.
And if you Google it, you find no one backs this up. at all.
Even though it says, and it stays on the screen for a really long time, so it's based on the true stories of Frank Dukes, and it's on there for like a minute.
Yeah.
So you have to read it all and go, wow, impressive. And then like the stats are really weird. It's like in a 5-year period, and they said the Kumite is every 5 years, but they said he won like 370 matches or something. I'm like, wait, there's only one Kumite within the 5-year period. So
yeah, no, it's ridiculous, and like literally not a soul backs it, but like it's literally. I think if you Google it, maybe I don't know, maybe someone out there, but there's no one that says the Kumite exists. Like the military's like, no, that doesn't happen. Like
interesting.
Everyone is like, this isn't this guy's crazy, but.
Which is such a bummer because when I was a kid, he was like my idol. I was like, oh my God, this guy.
Frank
and then,
Dukes.
you know, internet comes around.
Well, that's funny. I almost Googled that last night, but I was so tired when I watched it. So I'm almost glad I didn't. So I went to bed like just believing, still drinking the Kool-Aid of Frank
Well,
Dukes.
if you want to keep believing, I understand. If you want to go down a rabbit hole of I want the real story of Frank Dukes and him coming up with this story and pitching it and getting a movie made out of it. That's what I want to see. But before we get to the final parts of the show, of course, I think I've said it before. This is one of my favorite all-time action movies. Andy, we'll start with you. Just kind of closing thoughts on Bloodsport.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of my favorite films as a kid. So going back to it was great. I really enjoyed it, and it's super. Now it's like pretty hokey, but it's very fun, and the fight scenes really hold up really well. So I enjoyed it.
And James, how about you? Any final thoughts for old Bloodsport?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, even the title, Bloodsport. Like, if you just think about it, like that's a great, iconic title. I had no idea. You know, we've all seen a lot of Van Damme movies, but really, his first like starring role is still like I pretty much would put that like at the top of all of his movies he's been in. And it just holds up well. I was actually pleasantly surprised how good it still was.
Yeah. Great movie. Glad we got to watch it all again. Now, this is the part of the show where we see if Andy is able to connect a movie. 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Andy, can you do it this time? Can you connect Bloodsport to Kevin Bacon?
My goodness. This was the most difficult one I've ever had. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. Usually,
we had Kroll.
And we had Kroll. Yeah, but Liam Neeson was in it. So usually, I'll be honest, I do most of this like just in my head, and I go through and I try to figure it out. This one, I needed some assistance. So here we go. So Forrest Whitaker was in a movie called The Air I Breathe with Kevin Bacon.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's also with
straight to there.
Brendan Fraser, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Andy Garcia.
Oh, wow.
Huh. That's an interesting
Yeah, I'm kind of like, maybe we should review that movie.
The Air I Breathe. What's it about? Like that? Is it a basketball movie?
That's what I thought, but no, that's the Air Up There, I think. The Air I Breathe, I don't know. 2007, I don't know.
Oh, that's.
I was wondering, why do you guys see that's a basketball movie? The Air I Breathe.
Well, the Air Up There was the basketball movie with Kevin Bacon.
Okay, that's why. I see.
It's always interesting to see how far down the credits list Andy has to go to find someone that's in the movie.
I really wanted to do Van Damme. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. I don't know. Van Damme. And then I screwed up once because I'm like, oh, Van Damme was in Maximum Risk with Natasha Henstridge, who's in Species with Forrest Whitaker. I'm like, oh wait, no, that's not what I'm trying to do.
Well, that does it for us this week. Next week, we go to 1989, where we continue this tradition. We got Roadhouse with Flo Voice as our guest on that one. Then we go to 1990 with Pretty Woman with Natalie Canizares as our guest from Dead Body Movie. And then 1991, we have Terminator 2 with Evan Mack. Should be a fun list of movies there. We're excited to have them. Before we go, I'm at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. Andy Rossi, where can the world find you and Frank Dux?
You can find Frank Dux at just Andy Rossi or at Dead Body Movie.
And Forrest Whitaker character, better than Shippy, where can we find you at?
Yeah, you can find me at JShippy2 on Twitter and at JEShippy2 on IG.
That does it for us this time. We will see all of you guys next year.